My paper was over the Metz fire in Metz, Michigan in 1908. It wasn't really just centered around Metz. It actually came from 30 to 60 miles away from Metz. Then the fire hit Lake Huron, and with the upwinds and everything, it went right back toward Metz. The reason I chose this subject was because my family is from Rogers City. My grandpa grew up there, and my grandma went over there to visit him all the time. And in doing so, we got a lot of stories about the fire. So I decided to elaborate on it a little bit because I think it's really important to the history of Michigan. Uh, for starters, the fire started while they were clearing brush. Like I said, 30 to 60 miles away. It went toward Lake Huron, past Detroit and everything, then went back from the wind updrafts to Metz at about 5 p.m. on October 15th. Before the fire ever hit the uh, before the fire ever hit the town, there was smoke in the air, so everyone knew what was coming. So the surrounding town actually sent a an evacuation train through the train tracks. This was by far the biggest mistake that happened in this whole thing. The trains can't go off track, obviously, because they're on a track. So if the fire consumed the rails, the train would be set right toward the rails. Um, Before they ever left the station, however, there was about a 40-minute to an hour delay because everyone was not only packing up and putting everything on the train that they owned. There was also stories of an innkeeper or a saloon keeper who was loading up all of his alcohol. There's some there were some stories about how different people were arguing about if they want to stay on the train, if they want to leave, and everything was just holding up the train. So the train departed an hour after it was supposed to. After that, it was sent away from the town, but what they weren't ready for was the fire actually did already hit the tracks and melted the tracks. So about 10 miles, 10 to 15 miles away from the city or away from the village, the train derailed due to the melted tracks and um, was just caught in the middle of a fire. There were 30 to 40 passengers. There wasn't a specific number, but everywhere I saw said 30 to 40 passengers that were on there. There were 9 deaths. There were 12 deaths total. 9 of them were children. One of them was a mother, and then there were two that died later on getting off the train. The two that got off the train were the father was already running away because he was in a different car. A mother was with her 3 kids going to wait out the fire in the metal gondola, but the fire broke through the floor and actually caught fire to one of her kids. So she threw him out of the she threw him out of the um threw him out of the train. Sorry, my animals distracted me. Threw him out of the train, then followed the other two with that one, made it to a nearby farmhouse where a lot of the survivors were actually being held in, and both parents ended up perishing due to side effects of the fire, but all 3 kids made it out alive, so that was good. There was a train car that was just completely metal that had I guess most of them were metal, but there was a train car that had a family in it, or I guess there was a mom with some kids, and when the rescuers came, they just found everyone in bone and dust, and none of them made it alive because of the metal gondola. It pretty much just made it a furnace. There's another story that I only read somewhere once that there were firemen who went to get on the train, and the fire was so hot that they actually got into the one of the water cars. One person made it alive. They're splashing water on themselves to try to keep it cool. One person just ran away, which was the best option because everyone else, the water got so hot that they started to scald, and no one made it out of there. Um, After the fire finally settled, people who were hiding in the nearby fields of that farmhouse all stood up after just seeing the complete chaos that happened, and there was about 30 people in the field. And they all ran to the farmhouse and gathered their stuff. There was a rescue train that was sent from the other side of the tracks the next day, and the town was completely devastated. There was not even a standing building. The only thing left standing was a flagpole, the metal flagpole that was in the center of town. The one church they had was burned down, the town hall that they just got built because the town had just been, it was like 30 years prior, they just got the township started. The town hall burnt down, all the houses were gone, the saloon was gone, everything. The train station was even gone. Um, the the aftermath of it and the future, I guess that was the aftermath, but the future of it is that Metz is still around, but it's still not a very big town. There is a whole memorial dedicated to it. There's a memorial park, and there's also a like nature walk you can go on that has little posts and podiums that describe like parts of the fire and where it's kind of like a trail leading to like where everything happened. And it's actually a really cool thing to walk down and see, and they have a memorial to everyone who lost their lives. I think that the significance of this is how careless people used to be. I mean, it's still there's still wildfire warnings everywhere, and we still have issues with wildfires. But this was all during the lumber era, and there was so much wrong with what they did. A lot of deforestation, some trees are completely gone, and not only that, with all the brush and everything. And if they're trying to clear out land with fire, obviously it backfired. That wasn't supposed to be a pun, but it was. Um, Honestly, I just think that it's important to remember these kinds of things because a lot of people lost their lives during that, and they should at least have some kind of memorial and talk about it every once in a while in like a history class or like a class like this, especially during the lumber section. But it wasn't a very big town, and it in fact didn't just affect the town; it affected a wide area of Michigan. It's just that was a town that was hit the worst, so that's why we call it the Metz Fire. Um, Honestly, the personal takeaway that I got was that that was a lot more horrifying than I thought it was when I heard the stories about it. When I heard stories, I know that people perished and it was really awful, but I didn't know the entire town was devastated. I didn't know about the train car incident with people burning alive. I knew the train derailed in the fire. I didn't know who was on it. I don't know if people just didn't want to tell you because when I was learning about it, I was a kid, but it's really bad. And I hope that newer trains don't have that same kind of issue. I know that the trains are made of metal and everything, but hopefully we don't have to send a train into a fire. um, but besides that, it's just I feel like this is a really important topic to talk about in order to really understand the effect that deforestation had on everyone and how um, fast things can change, especially with the fact that that fire took over a huge area of Michigan within like a day, and it was still going for a little while. Even when it hit Lake Huron, it bounced back and continued going. So that's all I have for it. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I know it's not much, but I hope the paper was interesting to read as well. A lot of it's just centered around the train because that's what everything documented. Because I think that was the biggest tragedy that happened there. But I hope you have a wonderful day.